Taigi, pirmasis pranešimas ir jis skaitys urbanistas nuo 2014 metų, kuriantis veikos urbanizacijos dizainą ir įrankius. Han Dijkas, jo tarptautinės PosadMaxwan urbanistinio planavimo komandos sukurti tvaraus, sveiko ir išmanaus miesto projektavimo principai naudojami vystant miestus Nyderlanduose ir ne tik. Hanas Dijkas, jis, kaip jau minėjau, yra įkūręs tarptautinę PosadMaxwan kompaniją, taip pat kartu su partneriais jis įkūrė energetikos bei aplinkos konsultacijas teikiančią bendrovę Generation.Energy. Ir Hano Dijko pranešimas, tema savaime suprantama, kaip gero urbanistinio planavimo principai turi būti taikomi mūsų gyvenamojoje aplinkoje. Hello, Han. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so it's your time.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me to tell something from my own home. Luckily, I visited Lithuania a couple of times already this summer in Curonian Spit. It was amazing. I will share with you the presentation. My name is Han Dijk. I'm a founder of PosadMaxwan. We make spatial strategies, master plans, and public space design, and think about the future of our cities and our landscapes. Our spin-off company, Generation.Energy, focuses on the energy transition, and in my keynote, I would like to show you some insights in healthy urbanism and on designing on the energy transition. We made, the Netherlands wants to be fully relying on renewable sources, and for that we made an energy perspective for the whole of the Netherlands. Here you can see California in the beginning of the 19th century. You can see the oil pumps drilling oil from their reservoirs, and you could call this one of the early energy landscapes. It's then and now we're looking for a balance to make a systems design, and on the other hand think about our collective living environment. On the left side you can see a big mountain of coal in the harbor somewhere, not occupying a lot of space, and on the right side you see solar panels that need quite a lot of space more. So energy is becoming a spatial issue much more, and is also becoming a design and a planning issue. 1 petajoule is about 0.3 terawatt hours. I believe Lithuania uses 350 petajoules a year, so that is about 1 petajoule each day. You would need 30 to 40 wind turbines to produce that in a year, or 100,000 houses with solar panels also for a year. And this is what a coal plant produces in 20 days. So here you see also the issue if a country that uses quite a lot of energy and is organized on not such a big surface, that it needs a radical change in how we produce, generate, and also use energy. With a consortium of engineers and designers, we designed on the system for warmth and for electricity in the Netherlands. We based it on the control. So who is organizing it? Who's controlling? Is it more regionally organized, nationally, or internationally? Next step, we filtered into what is possible, what is desirable for people, and how then would that spatially be organized. So here you can see the output of one of the scenarios, the regional scenario, where you can see the output or the input that is needed to generate that energy, and you can see the solar panels on roofs, on fields, on the water, wind at sea and on land, geothermal energy and biomass. And The differences are that some have need a lot more space, and also the organization for wind at sea, for instance, in the regional scenario is difficult. We use research by design methods to go through scale levels and to constantly check what are the consequences on another scale level. What are the implications of how to change our environment. So here's the urban environment, and you see the consequences of reducing our energy, so trying to insulate our existing cities better, building new networks underground and electricity networks, and sort of the system it needs to also generate mobility through the city. And of course, the consequences in the rural environment. In our energy strategies, we also try to make good synergies with the existing regions and landscape. So here on the left side, you see a bit just above Amsterdam. It's a region where they grow a lot of crops, onions and carrots, pears, apples. So by trying to make a good connection to that economy, and also make sure that the fields around these solar fields could be pollinated by bees and other pollinators that could be good habitats around the solar panels. There shouldn't be a conflict between biodiversity and energy landscapes, and because we strive for the same goal, to sort of making a good livable world. So that's why we also do research on the impact on fauna. Here you see that for instance, bats and meadow birds, they don't like solar panels because they see it as surfaces, or would be a good hiding place for foxes to eat their eggs. But a lot of other species go quite well with solar panels, but we have to take in mind that the proper distancing is integrated. If we go down another scale level, we see that looking at our existing city, our existing housing stock, how can we also translate and transform them? How can we insulate them better? So by categorizing different typologies and different times when these houses were built, we can get insight in their possibilities for change. For instance, their insulation measures per typology, and where we can rank and look at the technical feasibility and the costs that it would need to also transform the smaller grain of our existing cities. We also believe that it is very needed to take and to change constantly in perspective. So change the perspective of the system, but also how this is perceived at street level. Also to make it discussable with people that only see constant changes and threats, and to make it discussable and acceptable for people. So here you can see a quite positive scenario of how a village will change, and how the recreational landscape can also adapt to the changes that are made in this renewable energy landscape. A second major theme in our office we started to research on, I think 5 years ago, is the relation between health and urbanism. Health is a pretty straightforward, common sense perspective to see all the needs we have from public space. I think the COVID-19 crisis sort of shows that we want quite a lot from our spaces, especially in the cities. If we look at the industrial period, people started to see that the human health was the weakest link in their economy. So industrials started to act on it and started to build garden cities for people to live healthy, to live a healthy life, so they could produce more. Also, cities started to include green parks in their city layouts, like you can see here in the Emerald Necklace Parks in Boston. But during the Second World War, around that period, we started to lose the perspective of health and to use that as a perspective of how we organize things. we started to give more space to cars and also think about the social aspects of our neighborhoods. Some for good, some not so good. Here you can see the effect that the car had on the inner city of Amsterdam. So we gave a lot of our space to our inner cities, and this is the before and after picture of the Rokin in Amsterdam. And I think this is one of the effects that we have been trying to revert the last 10 years and will be a major issue the next 20 years. We started to move much less, so new prosperity diseases started to arise and gave us new problems. And there are quite a lot of different external factors that affect our health. So the external factors that are caused through within our context of our human body, like air, food, sound, they all affect our health. For instance, air and air pollution in cities is one of the main causes of asthma, followed by smoking, and the impact on society is pretty big, because almost 500,000 people in the Netherlands suffer from asthma, and that percentage is rising constantly. Other external factors that cause obesity, of course, food and social environment, that are much more sort of lifestyle-based elements of eating too much food or having too little movement, or your socioeconomic status that will enlarge your chance of having obesity, and obesity being one of the catalysts of sparking overweight and heart and vascular diseases. So I wouldn't say that that it is the biggest link, but there is a very clear link between human health, the city, and lifestyle. We usually use this simple diagram to explain that. On the right, the relation between the city and the human health, where the context gives us sound, air, and water, and we protect our people through policies and laws. And on the other side, our human health is affected by the lifestyle that we choose. So we have to move enough, we have to breathe clean air, and most importantly, we have to reduce stress. And improvements can only be made through behavior, but also the city sparks the behavior and the lifestyle of people. So there is a role for planning and design in this relationship. A couple of years ago, the city of Rotterdam asked us to use the perspective of health to make a future plan for their city. So what we did is we summed up different issues that arise when we look at the city that needs to grow, that wants to have that wants to densify, that wants to have sort of renewable energy, and we see that the space, the health and space issues that arise from it. For instance, the densification and highway. The highways in a lot of cities it's border of different groups. It's sort of the inclusivity boundary. We see that there's a lot of fine dust and not so clean air around highways, but it's also the place where there's most space and there's the most need to densify and to change the city. So in one way you could say this is a problem. On the other hand, it is a big opportunity to change our cities and to make our cities better and more healthy. Another one that's very specific for Rotterdam is the connection between the city economy of harbor business parks that are intertwined with the urban fabric of Rotterdam, and where there's a lot of low frequency noise. There's a lot of small health issues related to that, but also there's a lot of quietness and a lot of place where actually people could use as recreational elements within the city. So our method is using different values and defining them so they become discussable also with people, also in participation processes, to see, okay, a value that we want to strive for is proximity to amenities, to being close on a walking or cycling distance to sports, care, and schools, for instance. or to organize quietness within the city. Secondly, we try to translate the bigger perspective to the living environment of people. So if we want to make the Rotterdam a more bike-friendly city, what will be the effects on your city, on your neighborhood level? How will your streets change, and how should it improve your daily living environment to bring better balance in sort of the idea of having a system, an organization, a sort of a stacking logic of all the needs that we have on space. Of course, that's not the you cannot build a city only around these health issues. In Rotterdam, we combined it with some other perspectives. Circular, the needs of the city are also that they want to become circular, compact, productive, and inclusive. And they have new needs. They will also ask other things from the city, other things from our space. But by combining them, it becomes sort of clear how we can reach for a certain synergy in it, and also how to weigh it. In my idea, the perspective of health is a very common sense starting perspective to weigh all those needs of the changes that we want to make in our cities, the urgencies that we have to deal with, and the future plans that we make for our daily environment. I believe I'm faster than 20 minutes, but this was my keynote on some elements that I wanted to give you on health and urbanism and energy. And I wish you all great success with the project that you are working on. I think you're muted.
Thank you very much. Taigi dabar klausimai Hanui Dijkui ir aš paprašysiu Martyno, kad jis įgarsintų tos klausimus. Martynai, padėkite mums.
Turime tik tai vieną klausimą. So Han, the anonymous asks, is Netherlands more dense if compared to Lithuania? Does it mean that space for energy production can become a new tradable commodity?
As long as the people that are living in and around the commodity are willing to take it up, I think there's a huge opportunity into, especially in also regions where there's a decline in economy. You could build an economy around sustainable energy, although you also have to make a good system or organization around it, because at this moment usually only the big energy developers benefit from it. So sort of new deals should be made around it, so that local communities can take control of well, if they have farmland, they can also use it for farming energy, but they have to sort of make a collective agreement around it with the farmer of that energy.
Okay, we also have one more question, I see. Yeah, this is also kind of related. So yeah, the question is, can we have a non-integrated strategy for Europe? I think it means something about the energy. Is there a necessity for a right scale once we're talking about, I think, yeah, energy in general and energy production?
It would be too easy to say that there's a perfect scale for it. I mean, there are some issues that they definitely need a European or even global scale for, but you also see what the dependency of each other also could mean for it. I mean, if we need to be strong as Europe, we need to organize things on a European level. For instance, CO2 tax is hard to organize within a country that needs a European perspective, but we also need small societies to be okay with the transition and having wind turbines in and around their villages and in their landscape. So in a way, we constantly need to change perspective from sort of the community scale to sort of what is the best solution for Earth almost. So I would say it is a good blend of these different skill levels.
Excellent. And last question is, oh, maybe we have more. The question is, yeah, it's kind of related to also the plan that we're undertaking, and also plans to build the new airport. The question is how to combine the plan to build an airport with healthy lifestyle. That's a challenge, no?
Well, yeah. Well, we've been studying for the ministries also the moving of Schiphol to sea, and also the changes that of course, that is a big land below Amsterdam. A lot of people now have health issues through the airport. So even moving it to sea, you would have some health issues for people around the coast, because airplanes don't land sort of vertically. They still have a quite large surface that they influence. So building a new airport and health are not great combinations. There's huge discussions, especially now also in Corona times, of is Schiphol so important for our economy? Is it vital for our economy, or should we make more radical changes where we get used to less holiday flights, less? On the other hand, we need to have mobility and international mobility taken care of. So I'm a big fan of working much more on the high-speed rail lines for Europe, and especially for the shorter flights. There's a lot of, I can only oversee the Dutch situation, but there's a lot of short-distance flights, even going to London from Schiphol, like 100 a day or something. So there's definitely a need to have a discussion about it. But of course, an airport also serves its purposes. So yeah, it's a difficult discussion.
Do we have time for more question, Daiva? Turim dar laiko vienam klausimui?
Taip, turim, prašau.
Puiku. Okay, that's a bit more complicated. I think we can make a separate forum just based on this question. How do you mitigate corruption in development sectors?
Oui.
Yeah.
I think it's an open question. Well, I can speak for the Dutch situation, whereas there's also there have been corruption issues, and also maybe even quite openly you could call also lobby, and a big lobby also. Where does it stop, and what does it begin, and how pure do you want it? In a way, we all want to make money, and we all need to take care of our families, but we also want to have sort of earth. And the donut economy of Kate Raworth, I think, tries to explain the basic elements for if we want to strive for and an improvement of our own situation, but that there's also limits to it. So I think there's limits to giving influence and giving power to certain developers on the scale that they develop, on sort of the direct the type of contracts, but also there's, on the other hand, there's a critical mass that you need to offer in certain contracts, because we also want to make private public connections in it. This will need a whole forum on itself, Martinas, to kind of discuss this properly. And I'm definitely not an expert in it. I'm only an urban planner, so maybe my opinion is not the best to take in this.
Yeah, since we don't have more questions, thank you, Han. And then for the last person to ask about the mitigation of corruption, I personally think that well, you have to be transparent, organize forums just like this one, and then the corruption will disappear, hopefully. Okay, thank you, Han. Daiva.